Have you ever noticed how quiet your mind becomes once you stop needing love? At first, it feels like peace. Finally, no more chasing, no more trying to earn someone's attention. But give it time, and that silence starts to echo. You realize it isn't peace, it's emptiness. The kind of emptiness that comes when you strip away everything the world told you a man should be. A provider, a protector, a lover. All roles built around someone else's need for you. Men don't just give up on love. They give up on being needed. They give up on performing. They give up on pretending that connection has anything to do with truth. Because when a man stops needing love, he starts seeing what love really is. A transaction built on validation and fear. And when that illusion breaks, something inside him dies. But something else starts to wake up. By the end of this video, you'll understand what that awakening really means, and why the moment you stop needing love, everything about you begins to change. When a man stops needing love, he doesn't become heartless. He becomes clear. It's like wiping fog off a mirror that's been blurred for years. He starts to see how much of his identity was built on the promise of being loved in return. Most men never question it. They spend years trying to be the good guy, thinking if they just give enough, stay loyal enough, love hard enough, it will be reciprocated. But love, in its modern form, is no longer about depth. It's about dopamine. It's a loop of validation disguised as connection. You give affection, she gives attention, and both mistake it for something sacred. When that illusion dies, a man experiences withdrawal, just like an addict. He doesn't crave her. He craves the feeling of being wanted. And when he learns to detach from that craving, something powerful shifts. He no longer acts from desperation. He starts to act from awareness. That's when his presence changes, quieter, sharper, harder to manipulate. He becomes the type of man people feel but can't easily read. And that's the beginning of true masculine depth. Now here's the question. Have you ever reached that point where you stopped chasing love and finally saw people for who they truly are? Share your experience in the comments. I want to know how that moment changed you. But here's what no one tells you. When you stop chasing love, you don't feel free at first. You feel lost. You've built your entire emotional identity around being needed, and when that collapses, it leaves a void. Not the kind of emptiness that hurts, the kind that exposes you. This is the moment when most men relapse. They go back to chasing, not because they want love again, but because they can't stand facing themselves. Silence becomes unbearable. The phone stays quiet. Nobody texts first. And for the first time, he realizes how addicted he was to noise, the constant reassurance that he still matters. But the truth is brutal. Needing love isn't the same as feeling love. One is hunger, the other is presence. Most men never learn the difference. They confuse the attention they receive with the affection they deserve. That's why the void is necessary. It's the space where you finally meet yourself without the mask, without the performance. It's the desert between who you were and who you're meant to become. The question is, will you stay in that silence long enough to hear what it's trying to teach you? Or will you run back to the noise just to feel alive again? Now, if you're ready to stop running from yourself, subscribe. This is where real change begins. Now let's look a little deeper into this. Because silence isn't just the absence of love. It's the space where your real self begins to form. When you stop needing love, what actually dies inside you is the version of yourself that existed only for others. The man who smiled when he didn't want to. The man who said, "I'm fine," when he was falling apart. The man who kept proving his worth through someone else's comfort. When that version collapses, the pain feels unbearable, but underneath it, something new starts to breathe. You begin to rebuild not from need, but from alignment. You stop asking, "What do I have to do to be loved?" and start asking, "Who am I when no one's watching?" That's where discipline and calm replace chaos and craving. Psychologically, this is the shift from external validation to internal regulation, the ability to sit in discomfort without reaching for distraction. And it's rare because almost no man ever learns it. Society teaches men to fix, to chase, to perform, but never to sit still and face their own reflection. When you finally do, you become grounded in a way that people can't fake. You stop leaking energy into places that don't honor you. You become quieter, but your presence gets louder. Because when a man no longer needs to be chosen, he becomes impossible to ignore. So let me ask you, have you ever reached that state where peace stopped feeling like loneliness and started feeling like power? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be the mirror someone else needs. Here's what you learn when you stop needing love. You don't become colder, you become selective. You stop giving your attention to people who drain your energy. You stop arguing to be understood. You stop chasing things that don't align with who you are. That's not detachment, that's clarity. A man who stops needing love doesn't lose his heart. He starts leading it. He chooses where his energy goes, and that's where his life begins to shift. The first change happens in your boundaries. You start saying no without guilt. You stop apologizing for having standards. And the people who are attached to your weakness will start calling it arrogance because they can no longer control you. The second change happens in your focus. Your mind, once addicted to emotional chaos, starts craving silence and order. You find peace in small things, a morning routine, a workout, a quiet drive. That's your masculine energy grounding itself again. And the third change, the most powerful one, happens in your attraction. When you no longer seek validation, your presence becomes magnetic. Not because you're trying to be desirable, but because peace itself is rare. People feel it. Women sense it. The world responds to it. So here's the truth. You don't need to chase love, success, or validation. You need to become the kind of man who doesn't depend on any of it. That's when life starts chasing you back. Now I want to hear from you. What was the moment that made you realize you were giving too much of yourself away? Share it in the comments. Your answer might help another man wake up. When a man stops needing love, he stops being controlled by it. And that's when he finally understands. Love was never the goal. Awareness was. The void you feared wasn't a punishment. It was an invitation to meet the man you were meant to become. Because once you can stand alone in silence and still feel whole, you stop chasing what was never meant to complete you. You stop begging for attention. You stop explaining your worth. You start walking differently, slower, steadier, like someone who finally knows where he's going. That's when people start saying, "You've changed." But the truth is, you didn't change. You just came home to yourself. Now, if this video spoke to something inside you, take a second to like it, share it, and subscribe. It helps this message reach more men who need to hear it. And here's what I want to know. What's the one lesson you learned when you finally stopped chasing love? Drop it in the comments. Your words might wake someone else up. And if you're ready to go even deeper, Watch the next video on screen. It'll show you what happens when masculine peace turns into power.